We're trying to avoid analysis paralysis. We're trying to, sometimes we have to choose between two bad options, right? But all we need is okay, we're heading in that direction. There are two highways, and it probably doesn't matter that much which one we're taking because they're going to converge in 2 days anyway. So let's go.
Welcome back to CardCast, the podcast where Milan and I chat about different topics. Topics we pick at random from a pack of cards like these. A pack of cards that Milan has conceived of and designed. So let's shuffle that pack and let's see what pops out today.
And we have a spade card, the trip from LA to New York.
But where did this card come from?
It was just a quick inspiration. I think it was a roundtable, and our colleague and fellow coach Peter Oxley mentioned this story or this analogy. I think we were talking about prioritization, right? And the planning and then understanding everything that needs to come. Like, how do you set up the priorities? Like, we know that let's say we're doing a kickoff, right? We have some idea of, what a tree hack is and where we're heading, but then, okay, what is it that we're actually doing this first quarter, right? We haven't mapped up swim lanes yet. We don't have our differentiators, right? We don't have the strategic framework within which to confidently say this is exactly what needs to happen this quarter, right? So how do we get there? And he used the analogy of saying, well, you don't need to know every step on the way. Maybe just the fact that you need to drive east is a good starting point, right? Or knowing where you're going to spend your first night, knowing that in that hotel has a decent Wi-Fi, and from there, you're going to plan the rest of the way because, you didn't lose the day. Instead of sitting here until you have all that planned, you can be in the right direction. Maybe it's not going to be 100% the best possible point to be, but is it going to be good enough? Is it the right return on your time to get you, closer to your destination or whatever it may be? And I thought that analogy was actually pretty clear. So I used it several times ever since. And look, one of the big mantras of, what we use in metronomics is the concept of good enough, right?
Yeah.
Is what we've done today, is this conversation good enough to unblock us, to make sure that we can do a next step with a high level of confidence that is taking us to the right direction? And that's all there is to it, right? We're trying to avoid analysis paralysis. We're trying to, sometimes we have to choose between two bad options, right? But all we need is okay, we're heading in that direction. There are two highways, and it probably doesn't matter that much which one we're taking because they're going to converge in 2 days anyway. So let's go. Right? Instead of waiting and trying to figure out like where we are going to be on a day 7 and what kind of decision we will have to make there. Well, we don't know what the weather is gonna be. We don't know what's, we won't know how the car is going to perform, how many kilometers we're going from LA to New York. So how many miles, did we make in the previous days? But it's irrelevant from the point of view of where we are now when we are embarking on the journey, and we need to make a decision to go in the right direction. So again, the analogy of the trip seemed to work pretty well. I used it a few times ever since, and all credit goes to Peter Oxley, who introduced me to it.
I actually had a conversation last night with the CEO where he was challenging me on some of the the concepts we use around the 3 hag, the 1 hag, and the Q-hag, and he said, well, I don't agree with that approach because you can't plan 3 years out. And I said, well, we're not planning 3 years out. No, we're setting a goal 3 years.
Did he actually says he disagrees?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, but. No, sorry, that was the last one. Yeah, and I said, well, look, yeah, you're absolutely right. We don't plan 3 years out. Now we set a goal 3 years out, and we set another goal 1 year out, and then we don't even plan for the year. We only plan for the next 90 days, the next 13 weeks, the race of the quarter. So we can make changes as we go, but because we haven't invested time in planning a year or even 3 quarters out, we get to do that fresh at the turn of the quarter. And he wasn't listening to me at all. And he said, I still don't believe you have to plan 3 years out. And I said, well, no, you don't. That's the point. We don't. We put a stake in the ground And then we work out quarter by quarter how we're going to get there, which means that any decision is never more than 3 months old. And you can sort of feel, what's going to happen in the next quarter, and you've got a pretty good idea of what's going to happen over the year. But because we're planning in the moment, just as we come to the next quarter, we can take the most suitable route. And then if we find ourselves going south and we're heading from LA to New York, we might want to adjust a little bit. We might want to adjust more towards the east and the north. But we can make those decisions in the moment with all the information we have to hand, rather than information we had a year ago, 2 years ago, even 3 years ago.
Is we don't know what's going to happen this Tuesday, right? Anything can change. We can make some qualified predictions. We can make some good guesses, but the reality is that whatever plan we're going to put in place, whatever the time frame is, it will be always pressure tested by this annoying thing called reality, right?
Yeah.
So we did another card from the CEO game on planning, right? It was the plan or to plan or not to plan episode, I think, and it's the same thing, right? People are confusing the act of planning with the what's the word? With the power of language. Sometimes it escapes you. Yeah, exactly. With the product of the planning process, which is the plan, right? Somebody said, plans are useless, planning is essential. And that's what we're talking about here, right? It's really, we have to go through the exercise to figure out, if for no other reason, is to find out and understand what is it that we don't know. What are the gaps? Yeah. What is it that we need to fill, right? But ultimately, again, if I use the analogy, do we have enough gas? Do we know the right direction? Do we know where we're gonna sleep the first night? Knowing that we will be that much closer to the destination to make the right plan for the following day. That's good enough to get going. We don't need to know everything until the last moment.
Absolutely. And it's being comfortable with that lack of knowledge. If you're going east or northeast, then you're probably heading in the right direction.